already. I always start saying already, but I'm kind of recording this video. Oh, shit. I'm recording this video to talk about steroids, and so the title is probably gonna be natty now or some shit. But talking about steroids, and I actually have a note where I wrote down a lot of my ideas on this or my thoughts on it. But I saw some of them just off the top of my head. But Um, this would be just to like remember what I wrote, but I think most of it's still this most of it is still like in my head. But I guess first off would be like always question is like natty or not, and then I guess well also we gotta kind of define like what natural is. I think I've heard some people say that like if you use creatine or protein shakes and you're not natty because those aren't natural substances, like it's not whole foods. But at the same time, like not everyone eats completely whole foods. Like if you take cough medicine, are you no longer natty? If you ever use like ibuprofen, are you no longer natty? Like stuff like that. So I think that angle is kind of ridiculous, and it just doesn't make sense. But natty is just what you don't use any banned substance, right? So if the substance isn't banned, then it's good to go, I guess. But I don't know if that does that apply to just well, if you use PEDs, I'm not too familiar with all that, all the names and stuff. But if you use PEDs and they're banned, like you wouldn't be able to compete in a sporting event or banned by water. Usually people use that. Then it's probably you're not natty. So um, after that, I guess the conversation would be like, is there is there what virtue in being natty, or there would have to be right? There would have to be some kind of virtue to being natty because people are fake natties. People are claiming natural when they aren't. So all you don't see people claiming that they're on steroids when they aren't. So for some reason, being natty is seen as a good thing, or being unnatural is seen as a bad thing. But even then, being unnatural isn't a bad thing. Like we know that people like Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and currently like people like Sam Sulek and Chris Bumstead, we know that they're not natural, but people still look up to them. So why is it people feel like um, being seen as not natty is bad? And usually the idea is that people are pushing this idea that, or pushing that their physique can be achieved by anyone that's viewing or following them, right? So that's why they don't say that they're not natty or not. That's why they don't say that they're not natty and that they're unnatural, that they're enhanced. Because they want people to see their physiques and believe that they can achieve them too. Which, to be frank, like that, whether that's the case or not, you see a physique online, it's probably not achievable for everyone that sees it, even with the exact training, the exact same diet. Like, not to say you won't get somewhere along the lines, but natty or not, or enhanced or not, that isn't always going to be the case. But I guess they say that if you're selling programs and you look good, then the case you're not going to be honest about your natural or not status because it loses you some credibility. But then when you get caught, that also loses your credibility. So definitely a really weird thing. Like I'd say that all being natural is a good thing. Being on steroids isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like you do what you have to do. But I guess where people will have more of a problem about it is the deception. So if you're on something and you're not being honest, because people see it as um, you're selling a product without giving like the entire story. So like you have a fitness program, but that's not the entire results or the entirety behind your results. Like that's not everything that went into making you who you are. So I think that's fair. But I do want to pose a question, right? Which one is worse, the fake natty or the person who's openly abusing steroids? So let's say, and then there's another category that I'm going to bring up next. So the fake natty, um, they're huge. they claim to be natural, and they say that all natural, but they're doing what, a bunch of gear or whatever they're doing, and they have an amazing physique. People follow them. People want to be like them, so they go to the gym and they completely believe that they're natural and that they're gonna look like him. Or a person that is abusing steroids and is saying that if you want to look like me, you have to use these substances, you have to take these substances, and you have to work out like me. So that honestly, this poses a good question, because even though fitness has become more popular in recent time, I feel like steroids, even more recently, have gotten more popular as well. And now you see the TikTok trends of like everyone using steroids, even people that like in their teens using steroids, which I think has always been a thing, like kind of just a little bit, but definitely it's more prevalent now that people start taking steroids very, very, very young, especially because of the influence of social media. So it makes you wonder if people lying about their natty status, or the third category I was gonna bring up, people not being fully honest about it. So there are people who claim to be natural, and there are people like John Cena, The Rock, who they claim natural, but it's not necessarily in the same way that like they put in their bio, but it's more so that they, when asked if they've ever taken steroids, they'll admit to it like years prior and then say that, but since then they haven't been using it for how they are now. So because you have to remember that, like, it's like, oh, kids are watching this, but the kids are seeing this, right? And if a kid wants to be like his hero, then he's gonna do what his hero did. So if your hero's taking steroids, then it's like, okay, I have to take steroids to become like this, which is true, but they may be inclined to do it earlier. So is it? So my question is like, is it a good lie to tell that you're natural so that people have huge aspirations without necessarily taking the actual risky life decision, or not risky life decision, but taking the path that may negatively affect them now, but maybe when they're older and they realize and they like get old enough to know like, yo, that person isn't natural, they're probably on steroids. By that point, they can probably make a proper decision of using steroids or not. But if John Cena is out saying, oh yeah, I abuse PEDs, that's why I look like this, then maybe more kids would be inclined to do it. So maybe that's the only situation where, well, that's the only reasoning where like someone that is not natty um, should claim that they are. I'd say if they're like a child, like a, I don't know what the word would be. If they're popular with children, like something like that. So because that also brings me to another line of thought. So if your hero has a certain physique that is only possible with PEDs, but you believe that it's possible without them because you think that they're natty. However, if you're the other side, so like let's say the delusional person, and let's say the cynical person who sees pretty much everyone, even just people that are natural but like elite level natural, and assumes that they're on steroids. Because if you assume everyone is on steroids, you probably will get closer to the truth than if you assume nobody is, or something like that. So, or at least you have a better base of reality, I guess. So, if that person does that and their expectations of the natural limits are so much lower, or natural ability so much lower, because you see it, people like see any bit of mass, any bit of leanness, and they'll think the person's on steroids, and that people that are natty can only be mid. So is that a better mindset to have though? Because yeah, you may know like you may not hold yourself to these standards because you know that you're not enhanced, but it also may be a little bit limiting, because even like I hate to like do this, but even like heroes like this, right? This is not natural. I mean, not even natural. This is not possible without the use of enhancements. It's impossible. Goku, Broly, like people that a lot of us started working out because of, those are physiques that we were never going to attain. We never could have attained. And I mean, possibly you could, right? With the use of steroids. But no one is looking at that and saying, "Oh, these physiques are unattainable naturally, so it's a it's bad to have them. You have to use steroids to chase that physique." But it's still good to chase that and get anywhere along the lines, right? They say what, shoot for the stars. If you miss the stars, you still be amongst like at the moon. Maybe it's reversed. So maybe if your expectations are super high and you put the work in to try and get there, you still might be better off than some whose expectations are low and you only put in work to get to that point. But I think that's like just questions, because my personal position on steroids, it's like you could save the money, like, well, it depends. If you're doing it professionally so you can make money off of it, then sure. And then I would lean towards honesty. Like, if you're going to use it, you should probably tell people that you're using it and not say that you're something that you aren't. Especially when people find out, they feel like they've been deceived. So you should probably go out of your way to not deceive people. But I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that people using it for the pure sake of just looking better, and they're not doing it professionally, and they're not an influencer, and they're not honest about it, like, that would be much worse. So if you're a person that is an influencer or not using it professionally, just want it to look better, and you lie. So like, let's say you use it to be the biggest amongst all your friends, and then you tell them that you're natural. Like, that's kind of it's kind of weird. There's no point for doing it except for vanity, and I don't think it's worth it at that point, because honestly, like, it doesn't even guarantee you a good physique. And for a lot of people, they could probably achieve something like that naturally if they just worked out a little bit longer. And I guess that's like the bigger, what's it called? I don't know what the word is. That's the bigger that's the bigger point. She's that in all of this is people have grown. People are dissatisfied with having to put in work for a longer amount of time. People want things instantly, instant gratification. Like, people want things like quick and immediately. And even like becoming really fit has almost become a commodity too. Like, getting in shape has become a commodity. When really, instead of focusing and obsessing over goals, you're supposed to focus on, it's the cliche, but you focus on the work. Which is why, like, people ask me now if I'm trying to get bigger or not. Like, I don't have any goals of getting bigger, or any, not to say I'm against it, but not to say that like I'm intentionally doing everything I can for it either. I'm just working out because it's something that I do, and it's something I try to do consistently. And then I know that if you are trying to get bigger and you do have that goal and you don't seem like you're making any progress, that can be very demoralizing. But at the same time, like, you do have to have other metrics for making sure that you are progressing, because there will always be a point of no there'll always be a point that you can no longer advance past. So at that time, you have to be able to look at other things, or it'll be a point that you look like you're not advancing. I should say that. You should always be able to point to other things to be like, okay, I'm doing this. Let's say you're not getting any bigger. Are you getting stronger? Or maybe you want to shift your focus a little bit. Instead of focusing on gaining mass, maybe focus on cardio. Focus on not being winded when you run upstairs, or be able to run a mile or two without stopping. Stuff like that. So like, you gotta look at fitness as a whole, I guess, so that we don't get so obsessed with just how big we are, and how lean we are, and how big our muscles look, and trying to get there as fast as possible, but instead just trying to be 1% better every day, just gradually getting better, gradually increasing, gradually improving. It's kind of like, I gotta go back to anime, it's kind of like Goku. Goku never necessarily sought out to be the strongest. The only time he mentioned strongest is when because he was trying to fight the strongest guys every time. So even he was never even one of the characters that was like, oh, I have to get stronger. It was more so, I want to fight even stronger guys. So he's getting stronger so he can fight even stronger people. So I feel like that should kind of be the chase, that every day you're improving yourself, so you just get a little bit better every day in some kind of way. It doesn't always have to be physical, or it doesn't always have to be like physical or fitness or health related. It could be mental. It could be increasing your knowledge. It could be increasing your kindness. It could be emotional too. But it's that 1% pursuit every day, trying to be a little bit better or working towards being a little bit better. I feel like that should go a long way. But yeah, I think I probably got off topic on that one for a little bit. And I probably rambled, so I have no idea if that even made much sense. I try to edit it, do some magic, and make sure it makes sense. But yeah, and then also, like I mentioned, updates. My leg is crap. I'll put a picture in, show the swelling. I think it's going down right now. I've been taking ibuprofen, but yeah, I'm not hitting legs except for just stretching and like mobility stuff. So let's see how that goes. And yeah.